Chapter 1. A Noble Birth. I was born into a world of privilege and tradition on a crisp autumn day in 1828. The ancient estate of Yasnaya Polyana, with its rolling hills and ancient forests, was my home. It was a world far removed from the bustling cities and the clamor of the modern age. A world of peace and quiet, where time seemed to stand still. My family, the Tolstoys, were of noble family, their roots deep in the Russian soil. My father, Nikolai Ilyich Tolstoy, was a decorated military officer, a man of stern discipline and unwavering honor. My mother, Maria Nikolaevna Volkonskaya, was a woman of great beauty and gentle spirit, with a love for literature and the arts. She instilled in me a love of reading and a deep appreciation for the written word. Unfortunately, my mother died when I was just a toddler, leaving a void in my life. I have only faint memories of her, fleeting glimpses of a loving presence. Her death cast a long shadow over my childhood, leaving me feeling orphaned and alone. My father, though a strong and capable man, struggled to fill the void left by my mother's absence. He was often preoccupied with his military duties and his own grief, leaving me and my siblings to fend for ourselves. Despite the challenges we faced, I found solace in the beauty of Yasnaya Polyana. The estate was my sanctuary, a place where I could escape the harsh realities of life and lose myself in the wonders of nature. I spent countless hours exploring the woods, climbing trees, and fishing in the streams. These experiences nurtured my love for the natural world and instilled in me a deep sense of peace and tranquility. As I grew older, I became increasingly curious about the world around me. I devoured books, voraciously reading anything I could get my hands on. I was particularly fascinated by history, philosophy, and literature. I dreamed of becoming a writer, of using my words to capture the beauty and complexity of the human experience. My father, recognizing my intellectual curiosity, hired a series of tutors to educate me at home. I excelled in my studies, particularly in mathematics and languages. However, I often clashed with my tutors, finding their rigid teaching methods stifling and uninspiring. Despite my academic success, I yearned for something more. I craved adventure, excitement, and a sense of purpose. I longed to break free from the confines of my privileged upbringing and experience the world firsthand. When I was 12, my father sent me to a boarding school in Kazan. The experience was a shock to my system. I was no longer the pampered son of a noble family. Instead, I was just another student, subject to the harsh discipline of the schoolmasters. I struggled to adapt to the rigid routine and the strict rules. However, I also found opportunities for growth and development. I made new friends, joined clubs, and participated in additional activities. I discovered a passion for music, playing the piano and the violin. I also began to write poetry and short stories, exploring my own thoughts and feelings. After a few years at the boarding school, I transferred to the University of Kazan. I enrolled in the Faculty of Law, but my heart was not in it. I was more interested in philosophy, literature, and history. I spent much of my time reading and writing, neglecting my studies. I eventually dropped out of university and returned to Yasnaya Polyana. I spent my days wandering the estate, lost in thought. I was searching for meaning, purpose, and a way to make a difference in the world. Chapter 2. A Troubled Youth. After dropping out of university, I returned to Yasnaya Polyana adrift and uncertain. The once familiar estate felt strange and empty. I spent my days wandering the grounds, lost in thought. I questioned the values and beliefs that had shaped my life. I was troubled by the inequality and injustice I saw around me. The rigid social hierarchy and the oppressive regime of the Tsar's government seemed to stifle human potential. I sought solace in philosophy, turning to the works of Rousseau, Voltaire, and Kant. These thinkers challenged traditional notions of morality, society, and government. They inspire me to think critically and question the status quo. As I delved deeper into these philosophical ideas, I began to develop my own unique worldview. I became increasingly critical of the Russian aristocracy and the Tsar's regime. I believed that the true purpose of life was to serve humanity, not to accumulate wealth and power. My spiritual journey was equally tumultuous. I struggled with questions of faith, morality, and the meaning of life. The dogmatic teachings of the Orthodox Church failed to satisfy my intellectual and spiritual needs. I turned to Eastern philosophy, particularly Buddhism and Hinduism, for a more holistic and compassionate worldview. Through my studies and personal experiences, I began to develop a unique philosophy of life. I believed in the importance of simplicity, honesty, and compassion. I rejected materialism and sought to live a life of meaning and purpose. This period of introspection and spiritual searching would shape the course of my life. It would inspire my writing, my activism, and my unwavering commitment to human suffering. Chapter 3: A Soldier's Life. The Crimean War was a complex conflict with far-reaching consequences. It was a clash between the Russian Empire and an alliance of the Ottoman Empire, France and Britain. The immediate cause of the war was a dispute over the holy sites in the Ottoman Empire, particularly those in Jerusalem. However, underlying geopolitical tensions were also at play. Russia sought to expand its influence in the Black Sea and the Mediterranean, while Britain and France were determined to check Russian power and protect the Ottoman Empire. I volunteered to serve in the Russian army, eager to escape the confines of my privileged upbringing and experience the world firsthand. I was filled with youthful idealism and a sense of patriotic duty. The realities of war, however, were far harsher than I had imagined. The trenches, the constant threat of death, and the suffering of my fellow soldiers shattered my illusions of glory. I witnessed the horrors of war firsthand, the senseless loss of life, and the devastation of the human spirit. The war was fought with outdated tactics and brutal conditions. Soldiers suffered from disease, malnutrition, and exposure to the elements. The medical care was inadequate, and many soldiers died from preventable illnesses. Despite the hardships, I found solace in my writing. I began to document my experiences, capturing the raw reality of life on the front lines. My sketches and stories were published in Russian newspapers, bringing me recognition as a talented writer. However, the war also left me with a deep sense of disillusionment. I questioned the morality of war and the senseless loss of life. This disillusionment would continue to fuel my search for meaning and purpose. After the war, I returned to Yasnaya Polyana, haunted by the memories of the battlefield. I struggled to adjust to civilian life. The peace and quiet of the estate seemed hollow and meaningless. I yearned for excitement, for a sense of purpose. In 1857, I embarked on a journey to Europe. I visited Paris, Berlin, and other major cities, hoping to find inspiration and enlightenment. I immersed myself in the works of European philosophers and writers, seeking answers to the big questions of life. However, my travels did little to alleviate my spiritual unrest. I returned to Russia, more disillusioned than ever. I felt a growing sense of alienation from the world around me. It was during this time that I began to explore the teachings of Eastern philosophy. I was particularly drawn to the ideas of nonviolence and compassion. I began to question the traditional values of honor, duty, and patriotism that had been instilled in me from childhood. I started to experiment with a simpler lifestyle, rejecting the excesses of the aristocratic lifestyle. I began to spend more time with the peasants on my estate, learning about their lives and struggles. I was deeply moved by their resilience and their ability to find joy in the midst of hardship. This experience would shape my future as a writer and a social reformer. I began to write stories and novels that explored the lives of ordinary people, highlighting their struggles and their triumphs. I sought to expose the injustices of the Tsar's regime and to inspire social change. My writing would eventually bring me international fame and recognition. However, my true passion was to serve humanity. I dedicated my life to helping the poor and the oppressed. I believed that true happiness could only be found in service to others. Chapter 4: A Writer Emerges. As I grappled with the disillusionment of war and the emptiness of a life of privilege, I turned to writing as a means of self-expression and understanding. I began to explore the depths of my own soul, delving into the complexities of human nature. My first major works, the autobiographical trilogy Childhood, Boyhood, and Youth, were a product of this introspection. These novels, published between 1852 and 1856, were a departure from the traditional Russian literary style. They were characterized by their psychological depth, their vivid descriptions of nature, and their honest portrayal of human emotions. In Childhood, I recounted the experiences of my early years, focusing on the love, loss, and innocence of childhood. I explored the complex relationship between a young boy and his mother, and the profound impact of her death on his life. I also delved into the psychological development of a child, examining the formation of conscience and the emergence of moral consciousness. Boyhood continued the narrative, exploring the challenges of adolescence. I delved into the turbulent emotions of youth, the struggle for identity, and the search for meaning. I also explored the theme of friendship, examining the bonds that form between young people and the ways in which these bonds can shape our lives. Youth completed the trilogy, chronicling the protagonist's journey from adolescence to adulthood. I explored the themes of love, loss, and disillusionment. I also delved into the complexities of human relationships, the impact of social class, and the search for spiritual meaning. These novels were a critical and commercial success. They established me as a major literary figure and earned me international acclaim. Critics praised my ability to capture the nuances of human emotion and to portray the complexities of the human psyche. Through these works, I explored the universal themes of love, morality, and spirituality. I sought to understand the nature of human existence, the meaning of life, and the role of the individual in society. I was particularly interested in the power of love to transform lives and the importance of moral integrity. My writing was influenced by a variety of sources, including Russian literature, European philosophy, and Eastern spirituality. I was particularly drawn to the works of Pushkin, Gogol, and Dostoevsky. I was also influenced by the ideas of Rousseau, Voltaire, and Kant. As I continued to write, I became increasingly interested in the social and political issues of my time. I was particularly concerned with the plight of the Russian peasantry and the injustices of the Tsarist regime. I began to use my writing as a platform to advocate for social and political reform. Chapter 5: A Moral Quest. As I delved deeper into my writing, a profound spiritual crisis began to consume me. The superficiality of the aristocratic lifestyle and the injustices of the Tsarist regime left me feeling empty and disillusioned. I yearned for a deeper meaning to life, a purpose beyond personal success and material wealth. I turned to religion and philosophy for answers. The dogmatic teachings of the Orthodox Church failed to satisfy my intellectual and spiritual needs. I sought a more profound and personal connection to the divine. It was during this time that I discovered the teachings of Eastern philosophy, particularly Buddhism and Hinduism. These philosophies offered a more holistic and compassionate view of the world. They emphasized the importance of inner peace, self-awareness, and the interconnectedness of all beings. Buddhism, with its focus on mindfulness and compassion, resonated deeply with me. The idea of suffering as a universal human experience and the path to enlightenment through meditation and ethical living appealed to my spiritual yearnings. Hinduism, with its diverse pantheon of gods and goddesses and its emphasis on karma and dharma, offered a rich tapestry of spiritual beliefs. I was drawn to the Hindu concepts of reincarnation, the cyclical nature of life and death, and the ultimate goal of liberation from suffering. I was particularly drawn to the concept of nonviolence, or ahimsa. This idea, central to both Buddhism and Hinduism, resonated deeply with me. I began to question the morality of war and the destructive nature of violence. As I embraced these new ideas, I began to develop a more radical worldview. I became increasingly critical of the Russian government and the oppressive social structures that continued inequality and suffering. I began to advocate for a more just and equitable society, one based on principles of peace, love, and compassion. My pacifist and anarchist beliefs led me to reject the traditional values of honor, duty, and patriotism. I believed that true patriotism was not about blindly following one's country, but about working for the betterment of all humanity. I began to live a simpler life, rejecting the excesses of the aristocratic lifestyle. I spent more time with the peasants on my estate, learning about their lives and struggles. I was deeply moved by their resilience and their ability to find joy in the midst of hardship. I also began to experiment with communal living, sharing my wealth and resources with others. I believed that true happiness could only be found in sharing and giving, not in accumulating material possessions. My growing radicalism alienated me from many of my friends and family. I was often ridiculed and ostracized for my unconventional beliefs. However, I remained steadfast in my convictions, believing that the truth would ultimately prevail. My spiritual and philosophical journey would continue to shape my writing and activism. I would use my words to expose the injustices of the Tsarist regime and to inspire others to work for a better world. I would also live a life of simplicity and service, striving to embody the ideals of peace, love, and compassion. Chapter 6: A Family Man. In 1862, I married Sofia Andreevna Bears, a young woman of great intelligence and beauty. Our marriage was a whirlwind romance, filled with passion and idealism. We shared a deep love for literature and a commitment to social justice. Our marriage, however, was not without its challenges. Sophia was a talented writer and musician, and she aspired to a career of her own. However, she soon found herself overwhelmed by the demands of motherhood. We had 13 children together, and raising such a large family was a daunting task. Despite the challenges, we were deeply in love. We shared a passion for life and a commitment to our family. We often spent our evenings reading, discussing philosophy, and playing music. However, our domestic life was often fraught with tension. Our differing personalities and lifestyles often clashed. I was a dreamer, an idealist, and a recluse. Sophia, on the other hand, was practical, social, and outgoing. She often felt neglected and misunderstood. The demands of family life took a toll on my writing. I struggled to balance my creative pursuits with my domestic responsibilities. I often withdrew into myself, seeking solitude and inspiration. This withdrawal, however, often led to feelings of guilt and resentment. As our family grew, our financial situation became increasingly strained. We struggled to make ends meet, and we were forced to sell off parts of our estate. This added to the stress and tension in our marriage. Despite the challenges, we persevered. We loved our children deeply and were committed to providing them with a good education. We instilled in them a love of learning and a sense of social responsibility. However, the demands of family life often overshadowed my spiritual and intellectual pursuits. I yearned for solitude and the opportunity to focus on my writing. I often felt torn between my family obligations and my personal aspirations. As my children grew older, they began to rebel against the strict moral code that I had imposed upon them. They yearned for freedom and independence, and they often clashed with my conservative views. Despite these challenges, our marriage endured. Our love for each other and our commitment to our family helped us to weather the storms. We learned to compromise, to forgive, and to appreciate each other's differences. Through it all, I continued to write. I produced some of my greatest works during this period, including War and Peace and Anna Karenina. These novels explored the complexities of human relationships, the impact of history on individual lives, and the search for meaning in a chaotic world. However, my writing often came at the expense of my family life. I would spend hours locked away in my study, neglecting my domestic responsibilities. This led to further tension and resentment. Despite the challenges, I believe that my marriage was a source of strength and inspiration. Sophia was my constant companion, my critic, and my muse. She helped me to see the world in a new light and to understand the complexities of human nature. Chapter 7: A Literary Giant. In the 1860s, I embarked on my most ambitious literary project yet, War and Peace. This monumental novel, spanning over 1,400 pages, explores the impact of the Napoleonic Wars on Russian society. It delves into the lives of a diverse cast of characters, from aristocratic families to the common people. Through the eyes of these characters, I examine the complexities of human nature, the nature of history, and the meaning of life. I explore themes of love, loss, war, and peace, and I challenge the traditional notions of heroism and destiny. War and Peace is a masterpiece of Russian literature, a work of epic scope and profound insight. It is a novel that has captivated readers for generations, and it continues to be studied and admired around the world. Following the success of War and Peace, I began work on my next great novel, Anna Karenina. This tragic love story explores the themes of adultery, social class, and the nature of love. Anna Karenina, the novel's tragic heroine, is a complex and fascinating character. She is a woman trapped in a loveless marriage who seeks fulfillment in an illicit affair. Her story is a powerful exploration of the human condition, and it has resonated with readers for over a century. Anna Karenina is a masterpiece of psychological realism. I delve into the minds of my characters, exploring their innermost thoughts and feelings. I examine the impact of social conventions on individual lives, and I challenge the traditional roles of women in society. Both War and Peace and Anna Karenina were critically acclaimed and commercially successful. They brought me international fame and recognition. Critics praise my ability to create complex and believable characters, to explore the depths of the human psyche, and to capture the essence of the Russian soul. However, the intense focus on my writing took a toll on my personal life. I often neglected my family and my social obligations. This led to increasing tension and conflict with my wife, Sophia. Despite the challenges, I continued to write. I produced a number of shorter works, including plays, essays, and short stories. I also continued to work on social and political issues, advocating for the rights of the peasantry and the abolition of serfdom. My writing has had a profound impact on Russian literature and culture. It has inspired generations of writers and thinkers, and it continues to be studied and admired around the world. My novels have been translated into numerous languages and have been adapted for film and television. Through my writing, I have sought to understand the human condition and to inspire others to live a more meaningful life. I believe that literature has the power to transform lives and to bring about positive social change. Chapter 8: A Moral Dilemma. As I delved deeper into my spiritual and philosophical pursuits, I became increasingly disillusioned with the Russian Orthodox Church. The dogmatic teachings of the Church seemed to stifle critical thinking and individual expression. I yearned for a more personal and authentic spiritual experience. I began to question the traditional beliefs and practices of the Church. I was troubled by the Church's support of the Tsarist regime and its failure to address the social and economic problems of the Russian people. I turned to the teachings of Eastern philosophy, particularly Buddhism and Hinduism, for inspiration. These philosophies offered a more holistic and compassionate view of the world. They emphasized the importance of inner peace, self-awareness, and the interconnectedness of all beings. I began to develop my own personal ethical system based on the principles of love, compassion, and nonviolence. I rejected the idea of a vengeful God and embraced a more universal and inclusive spirituality. My growing skepticism towards organized religion led to conflict with the church authorities. I was accused of heresy and blasphemy. However, I remained steadfast in my beliefs, refusing to compromise my integrity. I began to write about my spiritual journey, sharing my thoughts and ideas with others. I hope to inspire others to question the status quo and to seek their own spiritual path. My writings on religion and morality were controversial and often met with criticism. However, they also resonated with many people who were seeking a more authentic and meaningful spiritual life. I believed that true spirituality was not about following dogmatic rules and rituals, but about living a moral and compassionate life. I sought to live a life of simplicity and service, sharing my wealth and resources with others. My spiritual journey was a lifelong process. I continued to explore new ideas and to challenge my own beliefs. I was always searching for a deeper understanding of the nature of reality and the meaning of human existence. Through my writing and my actions, I sought to inspire others to live a more ethical and compassionate life. I believe that by living a life of love and service, we could create a better world for all. Chapter 9, A Life of Simplicity. As I delved deeper into my spiritual and philosophical journey, I began to reject the materialistic values of the aristocratic lifestyle. I realized that true happiness was not to be found in wealth or social status, but in a simple and meaningful life. I began to simplify my life, divesting myself of material possessions and embracing a more austere lifestyle. I donated much of my wealth to charitable causes and focused on living a life of simplicity and service. I moved to a small village on my estate, where I lived a simple life, working the land and interacting with the local peasants. I was inspired by their resilience and their ability to find joy in the midst of hardship. I also became increasingly involved in social and political activism. I wrote numerous essays and articles criticizing the Tsarist regime and advocating for social and economic reform. I believe that the Russian people deserved a better life, a life free from poverty, ignorance, and oppression. I founded schools on my estate, providing education to the children of the peasants. I also established a hospital and a clinic, providing health care to the local community. I believe that education and health care were essential for the social and economic development of Russia. I also advocated for the rights of women. I believed that women were equal to men and that they should have the same opportunities to education and employment. I encouraged my wife, Sophia, to pursue her own intellectual and creative pursuits. My radical ideas and activism made me a target of the Tsarist government. I was often harassed and threatened by the authorities. However, I remained steadfast in my beliefs, refusing to compromise my principles. I continued to write, producing some of my most profound and influential works. My novels and essays explored the nature of human existence, the meaning of life, and the importance of social justice. I believed that the true purpose of life was to serve humanity. I sought to live a life of love, compassion, and service to others. I hoped that my example would inspire others to follow in my footsteps and work for a better world. My life was a testament to the power of the human spirit. I showed that it is possible to live a meaningful and fulfilling life, even in the face of adversity. I believe that by living a simple and ethical life, we can make a positive impact on the world. Chapter 10, A Tragic Ending. As I grew older, I became increasingly isolated and withdrawn. The demands of family life, coupled with my growing disillusionment with the world, took a toll on my mental and physical health. I often retreated into myself, spending hours alone in my study, lost in thought. My relationship with my family became strained. My children, growing up in a world of privilege and comfort, struggled to understand my radical ideas and my simple lifestyle. They often resented my strict moral code and my insistence on self-sacrifice. My wife, Sophia, also became increasingly frustrated with my behavior. She felt neglected and misunderstood. She yearned for a more conventional life, a life filled with social gatherings and material comforts. In 1910, I made a secret departure from Yasnaya Polyana. I left behind my family, my friends, and the life I had known for so long. I was seeking peace and solitude, a place where I could continue my spiritual and philosophical pursuits without distraction. I traveled to a remote monastery, hoping to find solace and enlightenment. However, the monastic life did not suit me. I yearned for human connection and the opportunity to continue my writing. I eventually left the monastery and returned to the world. I wandered from place to place, seeking a sense of purpose and belonging. I was a solitary figure, a man out of time. In November 1910, I was traveling by train when I fell ill. I died peacefully in a railway station, far from home and loved ones. My death marked the end of a remarkable life. I had lived a life of passion, purpose, and idealism. I had challenged the status quo, fought for social justice, and inspired millions of people around the world. My legacy lives on in my writings. My novels, essays, and short stories continue to be read and admired by people of all ages and backgrounds. My ideas about love, peace, and social justice continue to inspire and challenge. Though my life was marked by tragedy and disappointment, I believe that I lived a meaningful and fulfilling life. I dedicated my life to the pursuit of truth, goodness, and beauty. I hope that my example will inspire others to live a life of purpose and compassion. Chapter 11. A Legacy of Love and Wisdom. My death marked the end of a remarkable life, but my legacy lives on. My writings, particularly War and Peace and Anna Karenina, continue to inspire and captivate readers around the world. They explore the depths of the human soul, the complexities of relationships, and the impact of history on individual lives. These novels are more than just works of fiction. They are timeless reflections on the human condition. They delve into the universal themes of love, loss, joy, and sorrow. They explore the complexities of human relationships, the impact of social class, and the search for meaning in life. My philosophical and spiritual ideas have also had a lasting impact. My rejection of materialism, my advocacy for simplicity, and my commitment to social justice continue to resonate with people today. I believe that true happiness comes from living a life of meaning and purpose, and from serving others. I was a complex and contradictory figure. I was a passionate advocate for social justice, yet I was also a man of deep spirituality. I was a brilliant writer, yet I was also a troubled soul. My life was a constant struggle between my idealistic aspirations and the realities of the world. I often felt isolated and misunderstood, a stranger in my own time. Despite my flaws and failings, I believe that I made a significant contribution to the world. My writings have inspired countless people to think critically, to question authority, and to strive for a better future. My legacy is not just a collection of books, but a way of life. It is a call to live with integrity, compassion, and a deep sense of purpose. It is a call to question the status quo and to strive for a more just and equitable world. My words are a reminder that we are all connected, and that our actions have a profound impact on the world around us. By living a life of love and service, we can make a difference, no matter how small. I hope that my writings will continue to inspire future generations to dream, to hope, and to strive for a better world. Chapter 12. A Timeless Message. Though I am no longer here to witness the world's changes, my words continue to echo through time. My writings explore timeless themes of love, loss, joy, and sorrow. They delve into the complexities of the human heart and the mysteries of the universe. War and Peace remains a masterpiece of world literature, a panoramic view of Russian society during the Napoleonic era. It explores the impact of history on individual lives, the nature of love and friendship, and the eternal struggle between good and evil. Anna Karenina is a timeless exploration of love, marriage, and social class. It delves into the psychological depths of its characters, revealing the complexities of human nature and the destructive power of passion. Beyond these iconic works, my shorter stories, essays, and philosophical writings offer profound insights into the human condition. They explore themes of morality, spirituality, and social justice. My legacy is not just a collection of books, but a way of life. It is a call to live with integrity, compassion, and a deep sense of purpose. It is a call to question the status quo and to strive for a more just and equitable world. I believe that true happiness comes from living a life of meaning and purpose, and from serving others. I sought to live a simple life, free from material possessions and social status. I believe that by living a life of love and compassion, we could make a positive impact on the world. My words are a reminder that we are all connected, and that our actions have a profound impact on the world around us. By living a life of love and service, we can make a difference, no matter how small. I hope that my writings will continue to inspire future generations to dream, to hope, and to strive for a better world. I hope that they will encourage people to think critically, to question authority, and to seek truth and justice. In a world often filled with chaos and conflict, my writings offer a message of hope and peace. They remind us of the enduring power of the human spirit and the importance of compassion, empathy, and understanding. I believe that my legacy will continue to inspire and challenge people for generations to come. My words will live on, a testament to the power of the human spirit and the enduring nature of love and compassion.